Well, good Friday morning to you. Trucker Todd here, and time for the Friday video. All right, folks, we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a while since I've done one of these, or have done one of these. My English isn't proven, even though you can't tell in this video. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 things that I feel like are hurting trucking right now. Now, this is just my mental list that I came up with. I didn't pull this from any news article, and you guys may have a different list. If you do, leave it in the comments below. Maybe there's something I missed, maybe something you could add to this. If you need to give me a more lengthy deal, feel free to shoot me an email, truckertodd806@gmail.com. Also, share this video on your social media platforms and look just below this video to make sure you're still subscribed. All right, folks, I'm going to cue up the music and we'll go ahead and get into today's topic. Here we go.
And this is why I do this, why I'm out here, why I keep that hammer down, flying by these road signs with home on my mind, with these wheels turning round, for my family and for my kids, for this life I wanna live. And this is why I do this.
Okay, folks, we're back, and without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in. We'll start just like a music countdown. We'll start with number 5, and we'll work ourselves down to what I believe is the number 1 issue affecting trucking today. All right, at number 5, even though there's a driver shortage supposedly, even though there's supply chain crisis supposedly, I believe those are man-made, and we can discuss that in another video or perhaps in the comments below. But the 5th issue to me has got to be parking, or the lack thereof might be a better way to describe it. With the pandemic, a lot of the rest areas have been closed to save money. People just don't have the staff that they had. Supposedly there's less trucks out here, but it can still be very difficult to find trucking outside of business hours. All the 8 to 5 truck drivers park, and if you're looking for parking at 6:30 or 7 in the evening, especially in certain parts of the country, it can be a challenge. Many of the shippers and receivers don't allow you to park there. Now, I'm on my way to a place right now. They do have overnight parking, and that really helps, especially with these electronic logs, to be able to park at a place like this and take your 10-hour break. That's not even counting when you get to some of these grocery warehouses, shippers or receivers, and they have you in the dock 6 or 8 hours, and then you're out of hours, and you've got to use the safe haven deal to get to a safe place to park for the night. But definitely number 5, in my opinion, would be the parking crisis, and I don't have any idea how you fix it, especially in the short term. Obviously, in the long term, things need to be done. I, for one, don't understand why when they close a way station that they can't leave it open as a truck parking place. You know, they tear the building down, it's just a blank lot there, and they'll put cones and barricades and block it instead of letting trucks park there. Now, it could be because truck drivers leave their trash everywhere, or their pee bottles everywhere, or poop bags or whatever, and that may have something to do with it. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, I've titled employment, not only in trucking, but in all the hubs of trucking as well. I don't know if you've noticed, but all of these trucking companies are not only having trouble hiring drivers, they're also having trouble hiring office staff. There's so many companies now that allow you to work from home that your brick and mortar businesses are having trouble getting people to actually want to go to work. And so for a driver, when you call in with a question or a concern, you have a lot of times a 15-20 minute hold to get a live person on the phone. Matter of fact, I may do a rant video about AT&T, but that's another topic for another day. And so that frustrates drivers. Then you've got retention issues with the drivers, hopping companies because they get frustrated, they get mad, and just hiring truck drivers. Think of the commitment trucking requires. Many of these companies don't pay you for a lot of the work you do, and they ask you. I'll give you an example. You show up at a shipper or receiver, and they say, we paid attention, but we give you $10 an hour after the first 2 hours. So you're going to sit there 2 hours, and then on your third hour, you're going to get $10. Congratulations, you made $3 an hour, less than half of minimum wage. And a lot of them have a cap, $100 max, $150 max. Years ago, I sat at a paper plant. I almost got a 34-hour restart there. And the company I was at the time had a max detention pay of like $125. Well, that's nothing compared to what you make driving. It's better than nothing, but it's not near what it should be. And so I did a rant video on this Wednesday. Everybody's got to go back to work. Now, truckers for the most part have stayed out here working. They were essential workers, and many of them worked through, but this is something else that's hurting us, is just people not returning to work. We're going to discuss it more in some of the upcoming things on our countdown. Number 3 on our list has definitely got to be the varying expenses. And what do I mean by that? I bet I took 24 calls the last 2 weeks from guys complaining that are on percentage pay, both here at Dart and at other companies, that they felt like the rates had gone down. I said, yeah, that's normal around Thanksgiving and Christmas. Matter of fact, November and December are usually slower months in trucking. Usually it really doesn't pick back up until March. Now, with COVID, everything's different. Everybody's needing stuff. And so, I mean, I've been in stores where the shelves are empty. So the supply and demand thing there. The demand is great, the supply is not, so the rate is going to be bigger. And we should be seeing good rates. But let's face it, at Thanksgiving and at Christmas, these companies know that you want to go to home. And so they can book these loads at lower rates because they know that you'll take them just to be home with your family. Now, I did talk to a couple of guys that worked through Thanksgiving, and they did pretty well, because then the other thing happens. The companies that are open and need stuff really need it, and there's not that many drivers. So the rates go up. So basically, I realize it sounds like I just contradicted myself, but what I'm saying is, leading up to Thanksgiving, the rates probably were down some. I was at home broke down, as you guys know. But for you guys that worked through Thanksgiving, you may have noticed a slight spike in rates. And so also with fuel is a lot higher than anyone could have predicted. Now, for those of you that are on a fuel surcharge, you're actually probably benefiting from these increased fuel rates. Now, if you're a single man operation under your own authority, depending on the fuel surcharge you've negotiated with your brokers, you may or may not be doing well right now, and it's tough to plan and predict because, I mean, here just a couple of weeks ago, they were having fuel outages over in the southeast and even up into the Midwest a little bit where they were rationing fuel. Several guys sent me pictures of signs saying you can only get 60 gallons or we're out of fuel, things like that. So hopefully you guys that are struggling with varying expenses have got a handle on it, and things will level out for you. But this is why you need a business plan. And right now I had a sales manager, he used to talk about being proactive versus reactive. And if you're waiting for something to happen and then reacting to it, like when fuel prices spike up, then you're not going to be as successful as somebody that's proactive and has a plan in place. And when something happens, they've got a way to react. You know, I broke down 3 weeks for transmission issues. Then a month or so later, I broke down 3 days in Oregon. And then most recently, I broke down 18 days at home. And I survived all of those breakdowns without taking out a loan from Dart. Now, had I not had a plan in place, had I been reactive and then tried to come up with a plan after I was broke down, I wouldn't have been near as successful. Now, it was tight. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm still recovering from that, but I did recover. And that's what you've got to think about when the varying expenses hit, is how are you going to proactively set your stuff up? Because this stuff's going to happen to everybody at some point. We're going to have market fluctuations. Your truck's going to break down. It's how you prepare yourself for those things is what's going to make the difference. Some of you guys that are about my age remember we used to have tornado drills in school. I guess they still do. People older than me remember when they used to have the nuclear drills during the Cold War, when they thought that the Russians might bomb us. And you'd get under your desk and cover your head and all of that, which would have done nothing for making you safer in a nuclear attack, but it made everybody feel better. So anyway, that's another subject. I keep going off on tangents here. I want to get back to it. Number 2 is maintenance. And this kind of relates a little bit to the employment one earlier. Right now, I had a guy from another company call me, and he said they have about 200 trucks at that company. He said right now they've got, I think he said 14 trucks around the country, which is a large percentage of their fleet, in the shop around the country, that the trucks have been in the shop so long the drivers just quit. So they've got 14 abandoned trucks across the country. Now, they're going to have to send drivers to pick those trucks up whenever they're repaired and bring them back to one of their terminals. There's going to be a lot of expense, including hotels, airline flights, fuel, all of that. Now, they'll bill it back to the drivers that quit and abandon them there. Maybe they'll get their money, probably won't. But if who knows when the parts are going to come. You know, when I broke down in Oregon, they had a truck with the exact same issue that had been sitting there for 2 months. When I broke down in Dallas, they had another truck there, same issue as mine. He had been waiting for a part for 2 weeks. And so part of that is those containers you see off the coast of LA. A lot of our parts come from overseas. You could make the argument that we need more made in America type stuff to keep these things from happening. But people don't want to pay the higher prices. It's going to cost more if it's built here because of government regulation. And so right now, maintenance is hurting a lot of companies, a lot of drivers. I told somebody the other day, had my breakdown gone another 2 or 3 weeks, I don't know if I could have survived. And you guys know I do great here and I love it here. But I would have probably had to try to borrow some money from Dart or sell some of my things at home or things like that. But anyway, what is the number one issue that I think is affecting trucking today? Well, it's kind of a spin-off of number 2 that I just mentioned, maintenance. But probably the number one issue as I talk to companies and drivers is trucks. People can't get them. If you want a new truck, go to SFI. Go to anywhere like that. They're telling people now April because of the chip shortage. The chip shortage, man, that's hard to say this morning. The chip shortage is hurting everything. New trucks, new pickup trucks, cars, everything. The supply chain, I would argue, is in more of a bind because of the chip shortage than it actually is because of a quote-unquote driver shortage. So, you know, companies, when they can't get new trucks, have to hang on to their old ones. Again, everything goes back to supply and demand. When companies hold on to their old trucks, waiting on new ones, then the used truck market prices shot up. And for example, this truck that I'm leasing right now is actually worth more right now than it was the day that I signed the lease over a year ago. And so for me, that's great. I'm building equity in a vehicle, which is something that is rare. My pickup truck is worth more now than it was 3 or 4 years ago when I bought it. And so this will all level out eventually. But for right now, that's the thing that's hurting trucking. people are driving their older equipment. They're going to have more maintenance issues. Then the shops don't have the technicians, the mechanics, or the parts to fix the trucks, so they're sitting. Then companies are experiencing financial problems because trucks that should be in the shop a day or two and back out rolling again are spending weeks and sometimes months in the shop. But that's my take on things. I hope you've learned something or got something out of this video. Like I say, I hope you guys will share it and give me a thumbs up. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. You guys have a great weekend. We're going to be back with something new on Monday. Y'all have a good time. Bye-bye.